Hello everyone. We at IETE Students Chapter along with EDC BIT Mesra is glad to have you at this wonderful webinar. So let's get started. It's 4 p.m. Yep, a lot of you have joined. Good. Okay, so today we are going to talk about open source development, software engineering, tech companies, and whatnot. So grab your opportunities and feel free to ask any of your doubts because I can see all the chat box. So at the end of the talk, we will take your questions. So let's begin. And our first speaker is Zeeshan Iqbal, who is currently at BIT Mesra as an undergraduate in Electrical and Electronics Engineering Department. A great developer, good at competitive programming, and has a long history of open source project contribution. So he's also a former intern at Geek for Geeks and is, of course, the beholder of Gsoc 21 title. And as we all know, Zeeshan Iqbal is going to share his experience and some tips and tricks for cracking Gsoc for you. So I'll welcome Zeeshan Bhaiya.
Yeah, thank you,
Over
sir.
to you, Bhaiya.
Hello, everyone. Yeah, thank you. Am I audible?
Yes, Bhaiya.
Okay. So, uh, thank you, Satya, for introducing me. But let's have one more for me. So, I'm Zeeshan Iqbal. I'm an undergraduate from IIT Mesra, and and I recently cleared GSOC, Google Summer of Code, at Zeolib, where I worked on the terminal app of Zeolib to bring feature parity with the web app. So today in this session, I'll be talking about some tips and tricks for cracking GSOC. So without further ado, let's get started. I prepared a small presentation for that. Let me just share my screen real quick. Okay. Is it visible? Sorry. I think it should be visible. Okay. Okay, let's get started. So so I hope all of you guys already know about Google Summer of Code. But for those of you don't know, let me just go ahead and introduce you to what is Google Summer of Code. So it is a global open source program that is conducted by Google every year to bring more and more university students into open source. And in GSOC, basically what you do is every student who is selected for GSOC is paired with a mentor and from a participating organization, and they help them get along the way to contribute to open source and complete their projects. And in return, they get stipends from Google. So that is Google Summer of Code to you. And okay, so moving on to the next slide. Prerequisites. So I get this question a lot of times. I get this question from a lot of students that, Bhaiya, what do I need to know before applying to Google Summer of Code? Do I need to know all the tech stacks? Do I need to know this and that? Do I need to know Python data structures and all of these before starting with GSOC? So for those guys, I always say that there are only three prerequisites for getting into GSOC, and that is just you need to have a very basic familiarity with any version control system, such as Git or Mercurial. But I would prefer Git Mercurial, since that is mostly used by most of the open source companies and most of the open source organizations right now. So familiarity with Git is just one of the requirements. And then the second one is you need to have basic knowledge of any one programming language. So any one language such as Python, JavaScript, Go, or any one or more programming language, and then you can just move ahead and learn the rest of the tech stacks on the go while you are contributing. That is what most of the people do, and that is what I did too. I didn't know any of the other tech stacks like Python, Django. I was even not good at Python that time when I was applying. So I had to go through Python basics and to intermediate from very basic from loops. I wasn't even good at loops, writing loops, for loops in Python, and then I have to learn all of these from list comprehension to oops, basic and everything. So it's not very difficult. Even if you know the basic of a programming language, you can still participate in Google Summer Code. You can still try out, and you can still learn. Okay, and then the third and most important thing that you need to have is patience, perseverance, and communication. I'll get to this communication part in just a few minutes after. So first, patience and perseverance, which means you need to have patience. It takes a bit of a time. You need to devote a certain amount of time to GSOC every day. You need to work hard on it. And perseverance, you need to strive for it. You need to have the perseverance. Okay. So yeah, moving on to the tip number one. So the tip number one for today is you need to start early and stay ahead, which means this means that you okay. I also get a lot of questions from students that Bhaiya, when should I start? So I always tell them that you need to start as early as possible. But what does that mean? Why do you need to start so early? So there are a couple of benefits to that. You If you start early, you get a better understanding of the code base than your peers who are joining late. You get better understanding of that. You get to interact with your mentors more, and then if let's suppose you want to come up with your own project idea. Let's suppose, since for GSOC there are a couple of project ideas that the organization provide on their own, so you can either select that project idea or you can suggest your own. And if you start early, you will have enough time, ample of time to go ahead and think about your own project idea, present it to your mentor, and just discuss on various aspects of it and see if it's feasible to implement it during GSOC. So that's one of the plus point that you'd get from starting early. And then the next point is, if you are, let's suppose, trying to manage multiple organizations, because Google allows you to apply to more than one organizations. What people generally do is they apply to one or two, at most two organizations. Most of the time, most of the people, they apply to more than one. That is two organizations or three organizations, or even some people apply to more than that. So if you are applying to more than one organizations, it's always good to start early, because then you have ample of time to manage all those organizations. And then the last point, which is very important, is that open source is always full of learning. You get to learn each and every day. You get to learn a lot each and every day. So the more you stay with it, the more you learn. So these are the couple of points that you need to keep in mind, so that you can start early. Okay. And I also get a lot of questions that if I start early, when should be the when should be the mm, time to start? When should be the exact time? When should we start? Okay. So I answer that mostly, that you should start during the months of January or February, because by that time, Google hasn't announced any of the organizations, and the organizations are mostly announced in the month of, I guess, February end or March beginning. So just after that, there are a lot of traffic. There are a lot of people coming in. There are a lot of students coming in and applying to organizations. So it gets a little bit hectic, and you also get demotivated seeing that a lot of students are applying, whether you'd be selected or not. It's a little bit demotivating. So I suggest to start early and join in the month of January to February, and then you can start on, because things are a bit stagnant. Things are a bit cool at that time. So you get a bit of a time with your mentor. You get to spend time with your mentor, and you can get familiarity with the code base too by that time. So starting on with the next pro tip is choosing an organization. So how should I choose an organization? What criteria should I follow? How should I choose an organization that I ensure that I mm, the that I ensure the maximum probability of me getting selected for GSOC. So for that, I usually provide these two links. This is a very good website. It is designed by one of the former GSOC participants, and it's actually open here. So you can go here and you can check all the organizations. It lists all the organizations that have been selected for GSOC from 2016 to 2021. You can see all the years here. So all the organizations that have been selected from 2016 to 2021 are all listed here. So you can filter it by that, filter it by the years, or filter it by the categories, that is the domain that they belong to, or even the technologies, the tech stacks, and even related to topics. So let's suppose you want to see all the organizations that were selected in 2021. So you select that all the organizations, let's suppose, that are related to end user applications and cloud. So you select that, you get a list of organization. Now you can choose any of the organizations from this and you're good to go. Then you can also select organization, also filter the organizations on the basis of the tech stack that they use. For example, this Python or maybe JavaScript for those who are into web development. And here is the tech, I mean the domain or the two topics that belongs to those organizations. So you can filter it by these two. I also want to mention that while selecting organization, always make sure that you select an organization that has a good track record of getting selected for at least the last 2 years, I would say. So organizations like AUSSIE, this Australian umbrella of open source, this was selected from 20 all the years from 2017. So this is pretty reliable. You can select this organization, or I would not suggest applying to organizations that have been selected for just 1 year or 2 year, or with a gap of more than 2 to 3 years, or which haven't been selected the previous year, because then they have a less chance of getting selected this year too. So I'd say that you stay away from those organizations because they are pretty unreliable. They might not get selected that year. Okay, so I'll give this link to you guys in the chat box if I can. Okay, I'll share the slide afterwards. Okay, and then you can also check out the Gsoc Archives. This contains all the projects and the student that was selected in the previous years of Gsoc. So here you can see Gsoc 2020, 2019, all the years. You can get the details about all the students and all the projects that are selected. So you can check this out too, but I don't think this would be much of use right now. I mean, selecting an organization is you can use only the GSOC organizations.f that I shared before to select a few organizations, and make sure that you keep a list of organizations that you select, maybe 4 or 5 organizations at the beginning. And once the list for selected are out by Google, then you can shortlist at most 1 or 2 of them and then apply to those. Okay, I would recommend not applying to more than 2 organizations, because then it gets a bit difficult to manage all of them at the last moment. Okay, so you'd have to submit a lot of proposals. Then for each organization, you have to submit more than one proposals depending on you, and it would get pretty difficult if you select more than one or 2 organizations. Okay, and once you have selected your organization, the next thing that you need to do is you need to download their code base. Okay, so generally all these organizations, since they are open source, then their code base would be open too. So it would be pretty easy to find that out on your own, and you can just download it or clone it on your system, and then you can just get started with that. Get started with the next step. Let me move on to the next step for now. So once you've selected the organizations, the next thing would be to communicate. So this is a pretty important point to communication. Once you've selected all your organizations, the next thing you need to do is you need to visit their mailing list or any of the preferred chat software. So some of the organizations, they use IRC, some of them use Matrix, and some of them use like Zulip or Rocket Chat, other software like Slack and so and so on. So you can just go on there and then subscribe them, join them, and once you're in, you can just try introducing yourself publicly and let them know that you are interested in applying for Google Summer of Code this year, and what are you interested in, and what do you already know, for example, and then you are good to go. So once you've introduced yourself and you have downloaded the code base too, I would suggest the next thing would be to go through your code base and just try to understand it. If you have any doubt, if you want to ask something, then your mentor is there. You can ask genuine doubts from your mentor, but make sure that you research first before asking from the mentor. Make sure that you research whatever you are trying to ask and then ask. Okay. And one more important thing is that you need to communicate with the mentor regularly. This is very important. Communication with the mentor is really, really important. You need to talk regularly with your mentor, chat regularly with your mentor, whatever their preferred chat software is. You need to tell him that what you did today, maybe what you learned today related to the organization, related to the project that you want to do, and just talk every day. That is, just let them know that you are here, that you are still here, that you are still contributing, that you are still working towards the organization. Just let your mentor don't forget you, because when you are applying for Google Summer of Code, there are a lot of students that apply for that too. So you need to find out a way to for your mentor to let him remember you. For him to remember you, you need to talk to him regularly. That's the only way that I would suggest. You get to you have to be familiar with your mentor and give them daily slash weekly updates about your work, and don't let them forget you. Okay, that's pro tip number 3. And once you are all done with that, once you're done with the communication, once you're done with the setting up your organization, setting up your code base, then you can move ahead and maybe ask your mentor for some good first issues to work upon. Maybe you can try out some issue on your own. Maybe you can find some issue, some bug on your own, and try to fix that. And just just try to contribute whatever you can to the organizations until the organization list is announced by Google. So the final list of organization is announced by Google in the month of, I say, February last, or March, as I said. So by then, you would have a pretty good idea of which organizations are going to be selected that year. So you can just shortlist one or two organizations from your list, and then try to stick on with those organizations only. Okay. So I would highly recommend that you apply to not more than two organizations, because, as I said earlier, it gets pretty difficult to manage all of that. Okay. So once the organizations are announced and you have selected your organization, you can move ahead and do the rest of your work, which I'll cover up in the next slides. Okay. There's one more thing that I need to say is, I personally only applied to one organization, that is Yolip, and I fortunately got selected in that only. But I would not recommend you to apply to only one organization, because that is a pretty that might be a little unsafe. So just to stay on the safe side, maybe apply to two organizations. Okay, just to be on the safe side. Maybe if you don't get selected in one, you might get selected in the other one. Okay, so that was one point. And moving ahead to pro tip number 4, that is work before Gsoc. So as I said, once you have downloaded the code base and you have communicated with your mentor, you have asked for good first issues and all, then you are, I think, ready to work on issues yourself. And yeah, yeah, these are the these are the issues that you need to look out for in the beginning, because when you're a beginner, there are a lot of I mean, you don't know a lot of things. Okay, so you need for so to get familiar with the code base, to get familiar with how the organization demands you to write code, and how to write tests for your code, and a lot of other things, how to get your code, how to get your PR reviewed, and how to, I mean, get the basics of Git clear. You need to solve a lot of good first issues first, so that will get you quite familiar with the code base and the general procedure on how to make a good PR, make a good contribution. Okay, once you have solved quite a few good first issues, you can move on to bigger issues, maybe bug fixes or maybe some improvements or refactoring work. So I would suggest you try to use that application, whatever you are working on, and then try to find bugs in it. If you are able to find bugs, then it's pretty good point. Then it's pretty good plus point for you. Okay, and once you find bugs, you can fix that, or you can make refactoring changes. This is also pretty good. Refactoring the code base helps in maintaining it properly and efficiently. And yeah, these are the things that you need to take care of. And yeah, and take help from your mentor whenever you get stuck. Okay, as I said, but make sure that you research well before asking for doubts, because then it suggests that you have put in a little bit of your effort too. You have just not I mean, asked your mentor directly. Okay, that suggests that you have worked on it before asking. Yeah, and then the next 1 or 2 months would be mostly these contributions that you do to the organization, and not much. So these 1 or 2 months, I would say, is the most important deciding factor for you. So make it worth, make it worth, and yeah, and just contribute as much as you can. That's what I would say. Moving ahead, there's pro tip number 5: project and proposal. Okay, this is the most crucial step for your GSOC application. Your proposal and the project that you select to. So be sure that when the proposal submission phase begins, it usually begins just after the organizations are announced, and it ends in the month of I say maybe April last, I guess. I don't remember properly, but near to April. I mean, close to April. So yeah, take a bit of a time to write the proposal and to pick a project. Okay, take a bit of a time, and uh, once you have done with the proposal, you can present it to your mentor for review, so that they can guide you further on how to edit it or how to make it more better. And I would suggest that you stay away from projects that you've not worked on before GSOC, or you have no experience with, or if they are research oriented. So just try to stay away from those projects, because chances are pretty less that you would get selected for those, obviously. And then yeah, yes, and then the most important thing that you need to make sure is describe your work in detail, which means the work that you did before GSOC, before applying to that organization, the work that you did. Describe that work in detail with clarity. Okay, this is most important. Most of the organizations that shortlist students, they look at your previous work, the work that you did 1 or 2 months before the GSOC application period ends. So make it a point to uh, present that properly. Okay, and yeah, so as I said, include your contributions, include the work that you did, and provide links to it also. Okay, so that the mentor can refer back to it. Okay, so that's it about project and proposal. Now let me show you a couple of proposal. Yeah, so I have a list of proposal here. These are some of the accepted proposal for GSOC for the previous couple of years for different students. This is my proposal for Zulip. I will show you how to write it, how to structure the proposal, what things that you need to include in a proposal. But just before that, I need to mention that there are several organizations that provide a specific format or template for writing proposal. Okay, so when your organization provides a specific template, always be sure that you stick to that. Don't change the format of that proposal. Okay, don't follow my proposal, then try to follow that proposal at all cost. Okay, so now moving on ahead. This was my proposal. Uh, as it is obvious, just mention your proposal topic in as simple terms as possible. Here you can see I have written improving Zeolib's terminal interface. It is as simple as possible. Okay, I can't simplify this further, I would say. Okay, so this is for people who have very less technical knowledge, because they would mostly be just looking at the at your title. So just write it such that they are even they are able to understand it. Okay, and then the next thing that you should do is you should mention about yourself, your personal details. Okay, your name, your GitHub ID, your email, university, etc., etc. Make sure that you also mention your time zone. Okay, because there are several mentors from all around the world, mentors and students from all around the world with different time zones. So mention that. A couple of points about your background would be beneficial. Your past experience, this is not related to the past work that you have done, but your past experience. Okay, so your work related to any open source project that you have done in the past. Okay, so you could mention that here. And just after that, it's not mandatory, but you could mention your projects done. It's not mandatory, it's not, I don't think even it's required. Okay, but you can mention your any projects that you did, you can mention that. And yeah, this is the most important thing. I think this is the only thing that most of the organization look at. They look at your contributions to that organization before applying, the contributions that you did before applying to GSOC. So always make sure that you have at least 2 to 3 PRs or more. Okay, more before applying. Then you have a good chances of being selected. So I joined up pretty early in the month of I joined in the month of January or February, if I remember correctly. And since then, I've been contributing. And before I was about to submit my proposal, these are all the PRs that I did. So there were a couple of PRs that I had already worked upon. And you be sure to include a link to those PRs as well, PRs and issues if you have opened. And this is the most important thing. Okay, make sure that you mention it properly. Okay, mention it in detail if you want, but always include it. Okay, this has to be there. I would say this is the deciding factor. Okay, your contributions. Once you're done with the contribution, the next part is, this is also important, describing a proposal. Okay, this is the main part of the proposal, describing it. So what project you would be doing, just give a brief abstract about the project, brief description of your project, okay, in layman terms, and that is called abstract. And then just after that, you would give a list of the work that you'd be doing related to your projects. Okay, so you could mention that. For example, you can see that I have a lot of things mentioned here. So like alert word handling, then support for attaching and uploading files, and a lot of things. And also be sure to explain these properly. Okay, you can use technical terms as much as you want, but be sure that you explain it clearly, that you explain it pretty clearly. Okay, and once you have done with that, once you have mentioned all your deliverables, all the list of the projects that you be projects and sub projects that you be doing, then the next thing would be to also mention the timeline that would follow. This does not have to be exact. This can be, I mean, you can just write a brief about what you would be doing. You don't need to be exact. You don't need to follow this at all costs, because this is actually about the future. So even you don't know what would happen in the future. So this, even the mentors don't expect you to just write exactly what you'd be doing. So just write a couple of points related to your projects and don't spend much time on it. Once you're done with your timeline, you could describe why you'd want to contribute to that organization specifically. So I've written a few points why I wanted to contribute to Zeolib, and this is also, I don't think it's that important, but you could mention it. This might be a plus point. Okay, this may be a plus point for someone. And this is also important. Right after that, you need to mention your commitments. your commitment that you have during the GSOC period. So if you are, let's suppose, away for some holiday, or if you are going to your grandmother's house, or maybe anything, if you are having tests, or your end sems or mid sems, any type of exams if you are having, so be sure to mention that here. Also mention what amount of hours per work you can put in during the summer. For example, I said that I could put in consistently 40 to 45 hours per week. Okay, and just after that, you could mention a few points about your post GSOC, that what you would be doing after GSOC. So just mention that you'd be helping the community and helping any new contributors to the code base, to the organization, and so and so. And these should be it. So just let me go over the points once more. So you'd have your about me. Okay, something about yourself, your details, your background, your experiences. Okay, then the most important thing, your contributions before applying, and then your project, the main part. Okay, then you describe a project in detail. Okay, whatever your project you have chosen, whatever project you are trying to do. Okay, once you have done that, the next thing is timeline. As I said, don't spend much time in framing your timeline. Okay, this can be vague. This does not need to be perfect. This does not need to be exact. Okay, and then just after that, why do you need to join that organization? Why? What are your commitments during GSOC, and what will you do after GSOC? Okay, these are the, I think, the important things that you need to mention in your proposal. And I think that's it for the proposal as well. Okay, you can check the other proposals as well. They would be similar. Most of them would be similar. You can check this out for better understanding of how to write proposal. And yeah, this should be it. Just after the written proposal, then there's not much left to do. You just have to wait for the results to come out, and in the meantime you could contribute more to the organization. You could solve more issues. You could work on a couple of more projects if you want to. And yeah, that should be it. Okay, and finally the results should be out. The results appear mid-May. Okay, this year the result arrived on 17th of May, the same day of my birthday. So yeah, so if you get into GSOC, then it's well and good. Congratulations, and I can guarantee that you will be having the best summer. And even if you don't get selected for GSOC, please don't lose hope. And there are a lot of other open source programs that are run every year throughout the year. You can participate in those too, and they are really good too. Okay, GSOC is not everything. There are a lot of other open source programs that are run by different organizations. I have compiled a list of other open source programs. You can check this out too. There's this very good repository. It lists a lot of open source programs. Okay, as you can see, a lot of summer of code programs. You can check these out, and a lot of open source competitions and university summer of codes, winter of codes. All of these are listed in this repository. You can check these out. Okay, I will share the slides and you can check that out. I have also selected a few of the important ones, I would say. Few good ones, few good programs like Google Season of Docs. It is pretty similar to Google's Summer of Code. Okay, the only difference is you would be contributing to the talks instead of the actual code base. So that's the only thing. So if you are good in writing, good in technical writing, then you can apply for Google Season of Talks. You still get a stipend, a pretty good stipend from Google. And I've mentioned the timeline. It's the same as Google Summer of Code from May to November, May to August, or May to November, something similar to that. Then there's Linux Foundation Networking. This is also pretty good. It provides very good stipend too, and it's usually held in the month of March to June. Okay, you could check this out too. Then there's Mlh Fellowship. This is also a very good, very renowned open source program. Okay, you could apply to this too. Be sure that it does not have a stipend for all for all the student does not provide stipend to all the student, maybe some select student, I don't know, but I just know that they don't provide stipend to all the student. Okay, so be sure before applying to that. And then there's Linux kernel mentorship program. I am not too sure um, what type of projects are here, but you can check this out. There's also a stipend. Okay, and the good thing about this is why I mentioned this is because of its timeline. This timeline actually depends on a mentee application. So whenever you apply for this, you can just participate in that at that time. So it doesn't have to be bound to a couple of months. Okay, bound to a specific month every year. Okay, so I'll be sharing this doc, and I don't think there's any more thing left. Okay, then thank you. This should be all for the tips and tricks. Um, okay, is there anything else left?
Yeah, there are some questions.
Yeah, sure.
So, how should an average student get started with open source contribution? Because, as you said, we should start work before GSOC. So, how one should approach?
Yeah, so I don't think that uh, I would say that any student can apply to GSOC. You just need to have patience. You just need to work hard. You just need to apply. Uh, you just need to put in effort into that. And even an average student can crack GSOC or any of the open source programs. Just need to start early. So as for me, I was not good at coding. As I said, I was not good at Python. I was not good at open source at all before I applied to GSOC. But my plus point was I started early, so I get to learn a lot by the
Just
time I was applying for GSOC. Okay, so that's it. I would say if you spend a lot of time on, yeah,
yes, continue.
you asking? Huh. So I would just say that if you spend quite a bit of time on GSOC or any other open source program or anything, then you can definitely achieve that. You just need to work hard on that. Just need to put in a lot of a bit of effort for that.
Yep. Okay. So we have more questions.
Hmm.
So the tech stack question. What all skills other than tech stack and tech stack are important for GSOC?
Uh, Other than the tech stacks, I would say having a good communication skill might be a plus for some people. Am I audible?
Yes, yes.
Huh. So having a good communication skill might give you a plus point because I've seen a couple of students, those who were not very good at contributions, those who did not have a lot of contributions before applying to GSOC, but they were good at communication skills. So that was a plus point for them in getting selected. So even if your tech stack is not good, even if you're not familiar with a lot of things, then you can still apply. You could still learn. There are a lot of things to learn, and if you apply early, then you have ample time to learn those tech stacks too. Okay.
Nice, nice. So we have the next one. What were your initial steps in GSOC and open source in general?
Yes, so I started with open source contributions in my first year during there's an event that is conducted by IIT, that is BIT Summer of Code. It was conducted last year, I could say, not the last year. So I got introduced into open source by through that, and that's when I decided to go on and try my luck with GSOC. So the initial step that I said would was actually the same that I said during the presentation. I joined a bit early. I learned all the tech stack that were needed. I learned Python, all those libraries that were needed, Python libraries, and I learned a lot of infrastructure related things. Okay, so those were the only things that how I proceeded. I used to communicate with my mentor regularly. That was also a plus point. So when you're applying to an organization, a big organization like Zulip, then there's a lot of students that they are applying that are applying to. So in Zulip, I would say there were almost 100 to 150 students applying that year. So getting yourself recognized by the mentor is pretty difficult unless you talk with the mentor regularly and you communicate with him. You tell him what you were doing. If you are busy, even if you are busy for a couple of days, then you can just tell him that I'll be having my exams or and so on so on. I will be busy for the next couple of days, so I might not be able to put in a lot of effort. I might not be able to uh, contribute much to in that period. You could just mention that and just try to communicate with the mentor. It helps in remembering you.
Cool, cool. So the next question is, how much time should one devote per week
Is this before applying to GSOC or when you are selected for GSOC?
when you are selected? Okay, both we can talk about.
Okay, so before GSOC, I would say depends. It depends on you because you are not bound by that organization. You're not bound at that time, so you could either have other shortcomings. Maybe you could maybe learning something else. Okay, it really depends on you. How much can you contribute? How much can you work? It depends on you. But after GSOC, after you have been selected, there's a, I would say, a set amount threshold that you need to work. I don't remember it right now, but maybe it was 30 to 35 hours a week. So you need to put in at least that much amount of time. You can tell your mentor about your availability times. For example, for me, I told my mentor that I would be available from 9 p.m. in the night to 5 p.m. most probably. So I worked during that period in the night because my mentor was not from India; he was from US. So he would wake up at 9 o'clock when it was 9 o'clock in India. So that's why.
9 p.m. That's quite late. So the next question, what is the process of application in GSOC?
Okay, so process of application is as I said, there's not much. You just need to select an organization, maybe a couple of organizations if you're applying to multiple, one or two, and then you just need to go through that organization's webpage and check the list of projects that they have submitted to Google, and you can select a couple of projects from that, projects that you think that you can work on, that you have worked on before applying, that you're comfortable with, and then you can start just working on your proposal. Okay. Some of the organization they also list you the steps that you need to follow to write your proposal. Okay, they mention all the points that you need to mention in your proposal. They also mention how much time should you spend in writing your proposal, and what points should it cover, etc. etc. You could prefer that, or yeah, I mean, there's not much in the application process. You just need to choose a project and then write a proposal. There's not much.
That's it. Yep, that's it. I guess all the questions are over. So thank you,
Okay.
Zeeshan. Uh, so moving
Thank you, sir.
on, we have the moving on. We will have the next speaker, Harshad Bhaiya. And let me see if he's here. Yep. Hello, Harshad Bhaiya. So, quite a line about Harshad Singh. He is currently working as a software developer in Amazon India and having a great history in open source as well. He has also been a judge in several hackathons such as NASA Space App, that is huge, Delhi Hacks, Hack the Mountains. He has also been mentor in different hackathon as well. And now Harshad Singh is going to share his experience in the software industry. So welcome Harshad Singh. Some technical issue. Let's wait.
Yeah, hi.
Yes,
I'm
audible.
yeah. So sorry for the technical issue. I just missed the
Yes,
whole part. Yeah.
sure. So now Arshad Singh is going to share his experience in software industry. Over to you.
Thank you a lot, GDG Ranchi and IETE Mesra for inviting me, for having me here. And this is the one of the nth time that I'm again with this platform. So yeah, hope you guys are having a very great Hacktoberfest going on. And so let's get started with the session. So I'll just share the screen. Let me know if you are able to see my screen or not. Uh, yeah, is it visible, my screen?
No, no, wait. It's coming. I
Okay.
guess. I think some technical issue. Just wait for me.
I think you need to just put my screen on the part because I can see in the down part. So maybe that part. If,
Um, just
yeah,
yep, it's
yeah,
coming.
no issue. Yeah. Okay, guys. So let's get started. So today we're gonna see a day in the life of an SD. So here today I'm going to talk about the my journey. A day here is a like a metaphor which has played a very crucial part in shaping my stops and my positions towards putting in my toward the journey of the SD part. So this talk will be more focusing on the part what what are the do's don'ts and how my journey was about, what are the roles to be expected, and every hell lot of stuffs. So let's get started with this. Just a rule of the thumb, what is the takeaways or what are the unique point of this today's this talk is going about. So today's talk is kind of a metaphorical talk where I gonna be touching some of the crucial aspects, quoting them as a single day, obviously, and that has helped me to turn my journey into a full-fledged NSD. So without a further ado, let's get started. So typically when we say an SD, so what do you mean by it? So as an SD is primarily responsible for creating a very applications which solves a real life scenarios, real life problem scenarios using the fundamentals of the computer science, or maybe if you're from some different background, then all the computer fundamentals which you have learned like databases over and a hell lot of stuff. So when you start applying to solve any real life scenarios, that's where the whole education of your becoming an SD turns into play. Now for the expectations part, SDs are always expected to, maybe you can sometimes you get a work which is predefined, maybe you get sometimes you get a problems which are very ambiguous. Let's say you want to solve some authentication based problem, or solve some any random problem you want to solve, and you don't know how to approach it. So at that time, all your skills of the computer science, of all the information technologies and all the tools and the uh, education which you have learned going forward comes into role. And then at that moment you have to think in terms of scalability, in terms of maintainability, in terms of how you think of a problem, how what are the factors involved in shaping the problem. That's where the role of an SDs come into play. And as you grow in SD, you are very well expected to analyze the needs first and foremost, and then design, test, and do monitor all the results which you are getting. As you start your career in your in the first level of SD, you are expected moreover to start helping other SDs also. Moving up the ladder, you start leading a team, and that's when the whole SDs, the SDs start forming up. SDs are given one more very crucial responsibilities. One thing which differs you from a rest of the people is the way you approach the problem. So how come is your approach different from the people who are approaching the problem? It's because you are not thinking only from the perspective of just solving the problem, but you are thinking from the perspective of making it a very viable, very financial based model which can be sold easily, which solves the people convinced, and at the same time its deliverability is quick. So that's the three different aspects which makes you different from the other people. Moving forward, one one of the most common myth busters in my whole journey, because this is one of the metaphorical life, which I would say, one common myth buster which I have come across in my whole journey of NSG was when I moved from college to corporate, the different expectations and the reality that I faced that day turned me into a completely different person right now. So let's get started with one and one all the points which I've listed here. So in back in the college, we always expect that okay, working for a very big firm, we'll definitely go and build a whole Google search from scratch, but it doesn't happen there. It happens that you are just working on a very small component of it, a very simple component to make it more scalable, more reliable, more efficient in terms of matter. Now when you start moving from college, you always wanted to solve the problem just by coding it. We always talk about in the college that okay, let's here's the problem, let's code it out, let's propose the solution, and yeah, we are done. But that's not the case in reality. In the corporate firm, you have to adhere to the business perspective as well. You have to make the trade-offs, what the best solution versus what's the required solution, and that trade-off defines your ability to think forward than anyone else. Moreover, when you let's say when you move to corporate firm, the scale which you are working right now, let's say in the college you have 100 people, let's say you have made a website and then there are 100 people hitting your website, and then you say okay, I've got a some traffic I'm getting. But at the same time, there are when you move to corporate, that 10 numbers gets to 10 millions per second request. That's huge. The scale is for right now, like talking about our organizations, we you have must have luck, we have a high velocity events. And believe me, when I moved from my college to one to this corporate firm, I have seen that increase, the drastic increase of the scale in a scalability term, from 10 requests per second to 10,000, or maybe random numbers 10,000, which I would not disclose, but yeah, is more than that. It's more than that per second request we have to handle. So that mental model of our preparation back in the college is not that sufficient to handle such big systems. And the famous, I would say, the myth which we had, okay, so what happens if something breaks down? No worries, we'll fix it out, we'll fix it and we'll resolve it. But that's not doesn't happen. Always remember one thing: a simple one liner code change is way tough and costly that it seems. Now, some of you may ask me, like, why it is costly? Let's say I have to make a simple code change in my code base. Now, how it's costly? How does it make sense? For like, how, on what grounds are you telling me that it's costly? So, when you make a very simple code change, it involves a lot of people out there. How come? You make a code change, you raise a what do you say in GitHub term? It's a pull request, and then in the pull request, then there's another person who is there who want to see that whether you have done the right work or not. Then he monitors. Then you push your code. Then it goes to build function. Then the pipelines. Then hell. Then dot. It goes on. So just one simple line of code can change the whole timeline of the whole project. So that's when I realized that you can't afford to make a very small mistake also in when you are working with such a huge system in productions. So these are the like very common myth which I had back in the college, and maybe you could also have. So yeah, that's what the point was. Moving forward, one common question which I get which I get from all like after mentoring around 50 peoples and always constantly like helping them out. So one common question was across all of them. It was, what are the things that we should be well versed or well aware of before we jump into the corporate firm? I guess most of you have the same question. Like most of people keep on asking, like, okay, I got an internship now. How I can make myself go for the full time, or how come I can make myself be well versed in SST? For my personal experience, I would just say no. This is just one simple line. Just expect nothing and be prepared for the world. That's it. Expect nothing means don't restrict yourself that okay, I'm going to work on this particular tech stack. Let's say I'm going to work on this particular tech stack. For example, if you're well versed with JavaScript, then don't just confine yourself that I'll be working on React only and I'll not see Angular or something different. In the industries, what the tech stack is following is for the betterment of the whole. It's not about just what's the how it's gonna better for a short time, but how it can be better for a longer duration. So when you're given a task, you can't expect the people that they will be giving you to what you are best at. Yeah, it may happen, but 50% of the time it may not. So just be prepared and just go open-minded with the whatever be the it. You know the tips, right? You know the tricks. Just see anything, read about it, get on the Google, read more about it, search on the YouTube, get hands on, and just go on. That's the way you learn. That's the only way you learn. Now, just one important tool that you should any everyone I would say should be well aware of is a Git. Remember, this is the brahmastra of anything. Wherever you go, wherever in life, notice my words, wherever you go, you will definitely gonna face this tool. You'll definitely gonna have your time that say, okay, uh what do you say, that what tool I should use. So you just say Git, and they start vibing you. They start what do you say? They start getting, okay, you are from our team only. Git is something which connects the people, and mine, Git is not GitHub. GitHub is just the online version. Git is the real tool which exists and which you should know. For more context on this, you can definitely go on Google and search the difference between Git and GitHub and the hell lot of stuff. Or you can like ask people out there, mentors and everything. So they're gonna help you in this understanding. Second and a foremost tool which you should be knowing is the nuclear version 2, which I would say is Linux. Believe me, Linux has the power. I'm not against any OS, but yeah, Linux is the fundamental, the kernel. I would say the terminal, how to operate the terminals, and the efficiency in that will, what do you say, will help you to go a very far in life. Using these two combination of Git and Linux, I guess you are ready to, and yeah, and obviously for the be the open minded, which you have to be for moving for any corporate firm. So when you have a combination of these three stuffs, like the open mindedness, Git and Linux, I guess you are ready for anything. Just be ready anything. Don't focus yourself, don't make yourself confined to the languages, confined to the frameworks, confined to the databases, or maybe particular type of tech stack. Database is wrong word, but a tech stack, which I meant it, like it should be a MERN stack, mean stack, lamb stack, zam stack. Nothing. You know everything because you have done the dev part, so you can be you are able to go and give your 110% there. Moreover, one more thing which you should be consider working on. Let's say there are persons out there who are very inquisitive. They keep on asking, they know, I just want to know something more, or just tell me more. So one thing which I lacked during my time, it was a clean and readable code, the writing the clean and readable code. Because when we come from college, so what we have is key, you go there, you just write the code, whatever you in mind, just write it there. That's how, that's not how the whole corporate sector works. You have to write the code for the whole communities. You have to write the code for the people who are going to take the system from you, the descendant of the team which will be passing on the system, all the people who are working on it. So would start practicing writing clean and readable code. And I would highly recommend for people out there to go and read about this clean code. There's a book called Clean Code, and if you go and search it, you will get the book online, and just go about, read about it in your free time. It will help you to be a better version of yourself any day. Also, I guess teamwork and hands-on experience on OSs. So open source software experience, as the last speaker was mentioning about Gsoc and other open source experiences. I would highly recommend people to take that experience of working on some other softwares in GitHubs, in going to other repos, in get understand the code bases, understand their way of writing it, and then just keep on contributing, because this will help you to understand any alienated languages very well and quickly, and you can get a well verse of it, like okay, how do you approach any problem given to you. So this is how, these are the some few fundamentals tips which you should like, the queries I would say, which I used to get, and always like, the queries are also welcome, but this is the basic, that how I can be a better version of SD. One more saying, that the saying, what do you say, this saying was grilled on me when I was there. Let's say when my first day of it, I just went, and then I realized on my first week, in my first week, or the first day, or you may say the first month also, you can say that every day I was just realizing this part of mine, that you can build anything. You know that deep inside, because you have come out of development firm and you are there in the college and you have been a good developer, so you know that you can build anything, but not everything. In that, working at that massive scale, you realize that you can't build everything. But yeah, given to any problem, you can build anything. So read this sentence twice. Let this sentence sink down on you. You'll realize how crucial is this part. And with this statement, like let's move on to some different myths. Yeah, and I think this was a common myth. And if say you have any common questions or any common anything you want to ask, then feel free to jump into the YouTube section and just feel free to ask. I'll happy to take the questions in the end of the section. So moving on to the communities part. Uh, so this is a topic which is uh, a diverse, slightly off the reason in my SD, but it helped me a lot. Believe me, the communities part is something which I cherish my whole life, which is something I was been a part of in my earlier college days, and I have right now also been a part of some of the organizations, and this has helped me a lot in shaping my growth, shaping my mindset, shaping my perspective towards the problems. So communities help you to meet different peoples of different mindsets, different goals, and valid perspective, which has a different approaches. So at that time you may come to know that okay, this my approach was different, and this is the point where I am wrong and should not be proceeding further. So that doesn't happen if you keep on working in a, what do you say, in a cocoon of your comfort zone. So always try to get involved in communities, accept people ideas, accept it, and then put forward your perspective and combinedly get above the whole. And that's how you rise, that's how you become the better version. Now you'll ask me like, okay, communities are good, but how do we meet different communities, how to become a part of it? So I would say there are different meetup groups, there are conferences, there are chat groups. As compared to my first experience, the GDG Ranchi was the first community group which I went and get communicated, like I was communicated by someone, and then I went ahead and then joined them, and then I was then working for it. So in the college time I have worked with different communities, and GD Raji was my very earlier one. So I really cherished their what do you say, the people out there, the people, the connects that I have made, and the the mindset that I've gone. So it's really great. Moreover, if you go to the frequent meetup groups of your city, let's say if you can just simply search about the F8 circle group or Facebook circle group, which would say, or Google developers group, or maybe some AWS, some other part, or maybe you can search for different meetups group are there in your city. Go to them, just meet different people, have them, greet them, and tell you what you are thinking, how, and learn what they are doing currently. Conferences, I would say, the second and the most powerful impact. There are a lot of conferences going on. There are you may have heard of the Google I/O conferences. Just see their conferences. People are organizing their sub parts in different parts of India, so attend them, go to the conference and see what new technologies are coming up and how you can be a part of it, learn about the technologies, and help people to know more. They spread the awareness of the via conferences. And also the last part is the chat groups. Yeah, I get some people are like people told me that yeah, they are much more spamming than learning. Yeah, I totally agree with that, but again, you have to be part of chat groups to know what is happening around you, what hackathons are coming up, what different workshops are coming up, and what not, like what like how the world is above and how the world is going further in the terms of technologies. So I guess the role of communities is very important in very short form, and I highly recommend people anywhere watching it, go to communities, go to the conferences, go with the chat groups, meetup groups, anything. Be a part of communities and just keep on learning further from them. Moving further, this is my famous and my line which I used to tell my all the mentors out there. I highly recommend people to be at their god speed and question everything. Just don't think of it, don't think anything else. If you're working somewhere, if you want to achieve something, just be at your god speed and question everything, question each and everything, because that's how you build your pace. That's how you are. You will be able to go further. You will be able to go far and beyond from other people's, and yes, you will be any day a better version of yourself, definitely. So moving on, I guess we have come to the end of the part. So in case you have any questions, any queries, or any further suggestions, anything, open to it. uh, Anyone, like, I see there are no questions. So host, do you mind?
Hello, am I
Yeah,
audible now?
yeah, yeah, you're
Yeah,
on.
there are quite a few questions.
Sure.
What a person should have in him or herself to become a software engineer, like core skills.
Okay, so this is a very exact question. I would say you should not be looking at what are something which you should have, but definitely what you should have is you should always be open to accept technologies and learn through them. You should never become fear of. Let's say, for example, I'll just give you a very rough example. Let's say tomorrow I have, because in my college I haven't learned Java, but now for the past 2 years I have been coding, writing, and developing softwares around Java. So the one thing which any developers, any people who aspiring to be a software developer want to have is that thirst of knowledge, the thirst of learning anything, and the skillful way of learning things. Like, let's say tomorrow, if I give you to learn this technology and come back, how do you go about it? Are you going to do a depth first search? You will go depth of each and everything, or you're going to do a breadth first search? How to move about it? You will get a basic crux of it. You will see the concepts. Okay, I want to implement this. How do I do it? I'll go here, I'll search for this part, I'll search first for another part, and I'll go to communities, ask my questions, I'll come back from the community, I'll then ask different people, I'll interact with them, and that's how I'll try to solve my problem and be open to any suggestions and everything. I think that thirst of knowledge and that skillfully uh, unblocking yourself by going to the communities, asking for relevant questions, that are the some crucial skills that an aspiring software must have, not only have. That's a must have, I would say.
Yeah, that's pretty exact. We have further more questions. What were
Yeah,
your steps to get into the industry? Can you brief about it?
definitely, sure. So before back in the college time, I wanted to get in the industry, in the software firm, in a like very big firm, obviously. And for that I was in mirage that okay, coding is something which is very useful and yeah, definitely it's definitely gonna useful. I'll not say not useful, it's definitely useful. But one thing which I wanted, which I've practiced, and I have asked people to practice, and after mentoring people I have seen also that yeah, it's working out there, is knowing the skills of debugging and developer skills. I would say the developer skills of debugging and getting to the and digging up deep into the problem statement is something which I followed personally. For example, I would just give an example of it. Let's say if someone gives me a problem and I don't know about it, so how do you go about it? Are you ask people relevant questions? Start asking that questions. Starting in the starting, you may see that it's all irrelevant questions. You don't know what to ask, but start asking the people, and by asking, by doing, by asking, by doing, and yeah, go to the basic of it. I personally took time, a lot of time, in going with the basics part, learning about the basics, learning about the exact why, how, and if this not, then what. These are the three questions which I asked: how it is happening, why it is happening, and if this is not going to have work, then what is going to work. These are the three questions I would say I was keep on asking myself, and that somewhere lead to me to build my base, a very strong base. And that may, yeah, I think that have worked for me very fine, and I'll keep on recommending people to do the same for it.
Yeah, that's good. We have further more questions.
Sure.
How much soft skills are important, and what all
Okay.
soft skills that are?
Okay, so this question is very genuine question, and I would say you I'm glad that you asked. So when you're honestly, when you are a techie guy, because I was being a So techie guy, being from the tech firm, people tend to lose that soft skill of communication. People tend to lose that the writing skills, and we understand that part, like because I have went to the same part and I have been to the same scenarios at places. But sooner or later, believe me, it gets important. It gets important where I'll just give you a very quick example. Let's say you are going in a hackathon and there you have to present your idea. Now you have made a very classical, well, what do you say, a well top world class software you have made it. But if you're not able to communicate your idea to the jury panel, if you're not able to communicate the same to other people, this is not gonna work. This will not gonna work. Believe me, there are people who will see your ideas, who will recognize your ideas. But in order to be that winner, there's a difference between the winner and the runner-ups and the coming up. That's one thing which changes everything. The how effectively and how much with whole punch you are presenting your idea, it becomes very critical. So soft skill, I would say, for software developer is an is necessity, but it's not a mandate one. Yeah, it's a very plus point if you have it, and if you are able to communicate with someone in a group of 10, in a group of 50, in a room full of people, your ideas very effectively and clearly, I would say it's have a very good edge. And maybe just adding to your question, people may ask you that how I should improve, how I should good, how I should go about it. I would say go on to the stage, start speaking. Believe me, when I started, I also don't know what I was speaking, what I was doing. People used to sometimes have see people used to feel shy that what other people thinking. But believe me, just go to the stage, start speaking your heart, whatever you know, whatever you have learned, whatever you want to do in life, whatever have you done, people want to hear that. So just go on the stage without any fear, start speaking, talking, and that's how, yeah, that's how you build it. And there's no what do you say, 1 2 3 steps to go about it. This is how you go it. I hope you
Yes, yes.
I answered your questions. Yeah.
Yeah, even today, I shake while I speak on stage.
Yeah, definitely. See, it happens because when we started it, we also felt that okay, who gonna host it? Okay, who gonna do it back in the college? But suddenly, it happens sometimes that once you start speaking it, you start opening up, you get that crux of it, and yeah, that's how you go about it. And
You
there is
have to
no
get the punches.
magical charm. Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
So, moving on to the next one.
sure.
What values you have learned in your industry expertise?
Got it. So I think the one and the foremost thing which I would like to bring up, that yeah, I just want to like make this question, like extend this question to people ask that
Yeah,
okay,
sure.
uh, uh, I people ask me that okay, I'm in a college, I have worked the startups, I have do the freelancing, and I don't require a corporate culture. But I would say corporate culture is a must. Believe me, like I'm saying this, and I tell you that around 95 to 98% people agree, because experiencing corporate culture is a must. Because at that time, it you know what exactly in the company functions, you know what is scrum model, you come to know about the way the team functions, the way we interact with each other, how to efficiently present yourself, how to say no towards yourself, how to take your grounds, how to what to say, have a backbone to disagree and to commit, and then to just clutter out how to just clutter out the scenarios and how ask the relevant questions. And one more important thing, how to remove the unconscious biasness. I guess this is a very new term which I also haven't heard long back, but this is the biasness which encrypts in our mind. And being in the corporate firm for more than a year right now, I guess removing your biasness is the first step which you can take towards improving your emotional intelligence. The thing which I've learned in the working in the corporate firm is your IQ is important, but your EQ is much more important than that. Believe me, staying with the mindset above you will help you to grow in that firm, in that area of your emotional quotient, where you develop how to ask the right questions, how not to be biased, how to remove your the prejudice that we have, and how to function well and increase my productivity towards work and everything. So I guess this was the best part, like I have like the I have felt in the back in the college, sorry, in the corporate firm from the college.
That's great. Uh, so moving on to the next one. How do one expose themselves to the industry? How to make that initial connection, which is the most important.
Okay. Okay, so one thing which I would recommend everyone: treat everyone with a smile. Believe me, first impression, the last impression, and this works. Whenever you get to talk to anyone, just have a smile. It doesn't ask for any bucks to smile people. Even if you have a bad day, doesn't matter. Just give a smile. Talk to people in a very humble way. Be humble. Nevertheless, you gonna achieve height in your life. Nevertheless, you gonna you gonna be a good, very well versed developer who have cracked, you have done leaps and bounds in your college life. But when you come to the corporate world, just be humble. Just be humble, talk very politely, and ask for help. That's way you develop the connection. And very frankly, I highly recommend people in the who is in the last phase of the college and going to the uh, corporate firm, is start asking for help, even if it's very small. Doesn't it doesn't matter. Ask people for help, ask people for the mentorship part, ask people to know their perspective. Just ask them, just be good to them, ask them if they need your help or not. Just be friendly, treat them with a smile, and be humble. And I think the treating everyone with a smile, humbleness, and what do you say, out to help anyone, these three things will gonna do the magic. And rest, your connections, the connections quotient will exponentially increase, what I feel.
That's great.
Yeah.
Uh, I think we are done with the questions.
Oh,
So thank you, Harshad Singh, and we were very glad to have you.
thank
Thank
you.
you so
Thanks a
much.
lot. Thanks a
And
lot, GD Ranchi and ITBIT Mesra, for having me here. And the people who are still watching me up, feel free to connect me on my LinkedIn, GitHub, Twitter, Clubhouse, anywhere. My alias remains the same. It's Helios1101. And always remember to be at God's speed and question everything. This is Harshit Singh signing off for the part. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
thank you all the participants for joining in. So we'll end the session here. Thank you all for joining.